What's up, family? It's your boy Daniel James II. I'm your host right here on Black Voices on the Hill. Black Voices on the Hill is a podcast and radio show for the culture. We center Black lives, we amplify Black stories, and enhance the Black experience at Cornell, Greater Ithaca, and beyond. Black Voices on the Hill topics range from racism, police brutality, colorism, sexism, to Greek life leadership and white elitism in the Ivy League. Black Voice on the Hill envisions a Cornell that's sensitive to the plight of its Black students, aware of the Black excellence in its college town, and unabashed about them changing the world. We see Black excellence at Cornell. We believe in Black empowerment, and we love the Black experience. Listen, Black Voices on the Hill is brought to you by WVBR News. To see more new and upcoming episodes and for other Cornell and Ithaca news, be sure to follow us at WVBR FM News on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Visit us at our website, wvbr.com/Black Voices. Subscribe, leave us a rating. I'm telling you, you're going to love this episode, so make sure you leave us a review. Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Overcast, and tune in right here on WVBR 93.5 every Friday at 2 p.m. and the episode releases on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Listen, I got a very special guest in the studio today, okay? I've been wanting him on here for a long time, and he's been doing so, he just moves so fast. But I'm telling you, he's been a great just brother since the first time I met him. Listen, he is a sophomore right now at Cornell University. I have none other than my KAPi brother, my brother in Kappa Alpha Pi pre-law fraternity. I have Mr. Marquan Frederick. Say hello to the people, man.
Man, hello everyone. It's just a pleasure to be here. I'm glad that we can finally, do this, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. Just to check in, because I haven't probably seen you since last spring, this past spring. So just tell me, how have things been? Just how's your school year been? How are finals going, etc. Just tell me.
Yeah, so since the last time that I saw you, it was just very, very rough summer for me in terms of all the involvements I had to do. I had to do some stuff with the mayor. Obviously, we spoke on that, but I was also doing P3. So I had the Cornell Defender program while managing a job. So just being able to have to balance all of that, I feel like I never really got the break that I wanted. So it kind of affected me when I came back to school, and just being exhausted and worn out. Really, it was a very rough semester for me thus far. But just being able to meet my family during Thanksgiving break, I feel that allowed me to rekindle that fire, to see my why, just be reminded of my why, and wanting to pursue the law, because for a second I didn't even want to go to school. I'm not even going to lie to you.
Oh no, man! I think all of us that are sort of on that pre-law track, we've all gone through that rut where we're like, you know what, just bump this whole pre-law thing.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I definitely have gone through. I went through that myself, and I'm a senior, so I feel that. You talked about your why, or even finding free time, I guess, because yes, you work public defender. We're gonna talk about that, mayor's office, but I know you do a lot of extracurricular stuff, and y'all may not know this, but Marquan does stay very active. I read you skate. I know you skate. You be boxing. Give us some quick just tips on how to keep ourselves active. What's the importance of that? And just, because we're coming up on Christmas time, people gonna be, eating sweets and doing all types of stuff. How should we stay active and things like that?
Yeah, and I kind of look at, me being active as another venue for me to just continue to be productive. So it's first of all, find something that you love that also happens to be something that could help you, stay on your feet, help you burn weight, or help you reach that ideal, physique that you may want. I like boxing. Initially, I was never really the type of person to be in the gym too much, but I like boxing because it allowed me to get some cardio in. I knew I had to work out a little bit, but I also loved organized fighting. And that was something that I kind of got introduced to in high school through family. And then skating is it's I love to groove. People call me sweetness on the rink. I try to, get my little, my little skating in, and just knowing that it's something that can provide you with therapy. It's very therapeutic, but it can also help you burn fat. So just finding something that you love that can do all three of those things, really.
Wow. You can skate backwards.
Yeah, I can skate backwards. That's pretty much the only thing I can do, not to the standard, but yeah, I most definitely can skate backwards.
Okay. You use the speed skates, or you use the The regular skates.
Nah, so I'm more of a yeah, I use regular skates. I'm not like a blade type of person. I don't really, I'm trying to like, groove, like I'm in the
Yeah.
70s. I
Mhm.
prefer like grooving rather than just going really fast around it.
I feel you. Something I always want to do. I like to skate a lot. I can skate backwards pretty good. But one thing I wanted to always do was like learn a dance routine on the skating rink.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
hey, I don't even know. Yeah.
I'm working on that too. Like
Yeah.
my homeboy, shout out to my boy Dre. He's really good, and I'm just trying to. It started off as me wanting to get like him,
Mhm.
like just he would always turn next and just really steal the show when he's in a rink. Like you can just see him, he's like a dove, and I really wanted to be like that.
Yeah. You ever seen that movie? What's that movie called? Is it Roll
Um,
Bounce?
roll bounce,
Roll
roll
Bounce.
bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I watched it for the first time during the summer actually. Like they were like sweetness, and I was like, I want to be like sweetness.
Sweet. That's right. Yeah, because
Yeah,
you did say that just now. Man, yeah, I
yeah.
used to watch that growing up, man. Maybe I should go back and watch that soon. But
Yes.
listen, that's very good. You talked about your why, in terms of in the law. Before we get to just who you are, period, Marquan. Um, actually, maybe let's cover that first. Who is Marquan Frederick? I know you're from Chester, Virginia, but just give us the rundown of who you are and just what you do on campus. Maybe just give us a quick background, school, college, stuff like that too.
Yeah, so Marquan Frederick, like you said, I'm a sophomore government major. I'm also thinking about double minoring in the inequality studies as well as crime, prisons, education, and justice on campus. Like you said, I'm involved in KAPi as well as Black Ivy. I do some work with my chapter, the Almighty Alpha chapter, about five fraternity incorporated, and that's pretty much in addition to the Cornell Criminal Justice Coalition. But that's a very good question. Like when people ask me, like, who am I? The first thing that I could think of is I'm the son of Mercedes and Brian Francis. Um, I feel that that's the best way for me to answer that question because if you know them, like you know where I came from. I was originally born in Houston, Texas. We moved to Rain, Louisiana to get closer to home. And, it was just all of us in a 2-bedroom government subsidized apartment, really just trying to make ends meet. Parents just really trying to keep me off of the streets and just try to make the most of, the opportunities that we're given. My stepfather joined the army. I was able to live in Kansas, Hawaii, Germany, and now I currently live in Chester, Virginia. And I'm really just, the son of an army, a soldier. I'm the eldest of 6 children and just really a family man.
Wow, that's a lot of siblings. Man, you lived where's your favorite place that you lived thus far?
Yeah, I would have to say that my favorite place would probably like growing up, I would have had to say Hawaii because the weather was immaculate and I loved the people when I was in middle school. But I would probably say Germany now, like just being able to really travel anywhere for like cheap. Just how I can go from here to like Pennsylvania. That's like me going to like Portugal or like dang near Spain. It's just like it's just so easy to just get up and drive, and I
Right.
love that.
That's right. Yeah, I just went to Berlin 2 weeks,
Oh,
two
that's so
years
great.
ago. Uh,
How'd you like it?
Man, it was absolutely awesome. I think, I took German for like 5.5 years. So it was like a full circle experience. I always wanted to go, but, just didn't, I guess, like have a way, I guess. But this time, like you said, it's really cheap. I paid like maybe 80 euros to go, which is like
Yeah.
$85, which it would have been cheaper had I bought it, farther in advance. But yeah, it was a great country, I think.
Mhm.
Listen, you said something really powerful. You said you started off introducing yourself by introducing your parents. And a lot of times in our culture and amongst our generation, in trying to forge our own identity, we often think we've got to sever the tie with our parent. And there's a unique balance of what it means to form your identity, but also acknowledge the fact your roots or where you came from. Or, often when people think that, they often think that you don't have autonomy, or that even your pursuit is not the pursuit of your goals is like parent driven. But it's like, no, it's not parent driven. It's parent maybe inspired, and
Mhm.
even could have come
Yeah.
out of my very circumstances. Like you talked about, I remember, I would love it if you could tell, just the people about your story, because from what I remember in our conversation about what led you even to pursue a criminal justice background, specifically being an attorney, what encounter in your life caused that?
Yeah. And like I said, It was just the reason I introduced my parents first is it's like that was a very interesting thing that you said in terms of how people try to sever those ties. I feel that that would have been the case if I wouldn't have had the parents that I had. You
Yeah.
know, historically, my family, you know, we suffered from a lot of plight, a lot of, you know, discrimination and racism that have led to, you know, my family having to be socialized in the conditions that they were socialized in. But my parents kind of broke those generational curses, kind of defied the odds, and really provided me and my siblings with, you know, great opportunities. You know, the greatest gift, a wise man once said, that you can give to a child is the ability to think for himself. You know, I come from, you know, like my family, just abject poverty, you know, high school and middle school dropouts. And my mother and my father, you know, they really showed me that truly I'm the master of my faith and the captain of my soul. And they really took advantage of education at a young age. That's why I play so many sports, because they enrolled me in everything: soccer, you know, taekwondo, judo, piano, guitar, baseball, basketball, everything, so that they could, you know, provide me and my siblings with an opportunity that they never had. So I could never forget that, you know, the sacrifices that they made at such a young age, knowing, and like you said, my why and why I wanted to pursue not only criminal law, but government in general is just, I don't appreciate the cards that my family, and then, you know, many families and communities have been dealt at large due to, you know, institutional racism. And me just wanting to, you know, take care of family members that have been incarcerated, didn't receive adequate representation, and were forced to accept, you know, to accept plea agreements because, you know, they couldn't afford to stay in jail. And now they have felony records, and it's preventing them from, you know, receiving jobs and everything, and really wanting to not only help them in that capacity, but to dismantle all systems of oppression.
Phew, that's so good, man. Listen, there's this quote. I really wish I could bring it to my memory, but essentially, what I was going to say was, man, you can either allow the circumstances you've been either born into or seen, those abject circumstances, like you talked about, to it can either cause you to be traumatized and immobile, or you can let it
Mhm.
move you to make change. And I like the fact that you let it move you. You
Mhm.
talked about the conditions. Talk about what you've noticed, maybe in terms of in Ithaca, New York, as it relates to incarceration. You know, I've uh, done work in terms of not prisons necessarily, but in a juvenile facility there that was predominantly black and brown. Young boys, typically 16 and 19. You know, a lot of the offenses that they had were very much, you know, not severe, not, you know, anything that was should have allowed them a lot of them to be in there since the time they've been 12, you know, but they have been, a lot of them have children, a lot of them, you know, are smart, intelligent, but they just have a lot, you know, they have a lot going on outside of it, and really the system is hampering them from being able to take care of their responsibilities. Tell me what you've noticed in terms of just your time in Ithaca, maybe about the criminal justice system and the ways in which it's jacked up, you know.
Yeah, and it's like one thing I noticed. I feel that, you know, since being at Cornell, I've had, and in Ithaca, I've had greater access to people who are affected by the system more than I did back home. It was more so family. Now it's like people from all different backgrounds, and I noticed that despite having different societal and like neighborhood problems, you know, the system is the same in a sense. Like it's obviously discriminatory, but those methods of discrimination are, you know, nuanced. And, you know, I've come to learn that, you know, as much as I study each and every day, I'm learning something new. Like over here in particular, I feel that, you know, in Thompson's County, the African American population is only 4%. So the same crimes that may affect the people back home isn't the same. Like it's not as violent over here, but, you know, property crimes are still a problem. Mental health and like access to, you know, drugs, like drug addiction is a serious problem. I know, you know, you go to the comments, you see a lot of people suffering from like, you know, mood and behavioral disorders. So I see similar police brutality incidents, but it's just really trying to, what I'm really focusing on is like tackling that homelessness and just the mental and behavioral problems that I see in relation to homelessness and just drug addiction.
Yeah. You know, before we get to policing, you know, I just want to note something. Now, y'all can hear him. When he talks, when Marquand talks, like he always talks with such passion. And I promise you, this is not just for this, you know, podcast, but he does. I mean, he's first time I met him, you know, it's just you can tell like he's just in our conversation, I distinctly remember him saying, "Man, there are kids out here who are just hungry for knowledge." That's who Marquand just hungry for knowledge and hungry to grow and do the best that he can. When he goes to class, we were in a I've seen him do it before, or when he came like comes to the info session for or
Mm.
this man got notes and he got questions to ask. Where I think we were in the law school program together too, dude coming to the class already have read the case details, but case other cases precedent. I mean, he got that passion. you know I mean, I guess you could talk. I mean, I hope this question isn't redundant, but just like with that passion, like that coming prepared for everything. A lot of people your age, a lot of young people your age, because you've been like this as a freshman before you even got to Cornell. Where does that come from? Like, who made you like this? I know you might say your parents, but just like, where does that really come from?
I would say like, my parents, obviously, but
Yeah.
like, so long story short, man, I came from nothing.
Mhm.
Came from nothing. From the product of being the son of a teenage mother. My mother had me, extremely young. To me being a Cornell student, to me having access to government officials, to me literally coming here knowing that I may not have the same resources as the next man, but no one is going to outwork me. And that's just something I got from my parents. My parents inherited. They didn't inherit property, they didn't inherit land, they inherited debt. you
That's
know
right.
like they didn't, like they came from nothing. And now I'm going, I'm living in Hawaii, I'm living in Germany. I'm seeing the Coliseum, I'm seeing Louvre, I'm seeing like all sorts of things that only a kid can dream of. And it's like my mother in her words, and then my father in action. And just seeing like coming from nothing. And it's like I could literally in my head, I could do anything I want. And it's like no one is gonna outwork me. That's just how it is.
It's just like that. I love that so much.
Like that, man. Just like that.
Marquand, listen, y'all. Marquand is my guy. I'm telling you right now. He's awesome. So then talk a little bit about the work that you've done with the mayor, because you talked about policing and a little bit about police brutality. Let's get into it, right? Because this past year and a half, maybe even over, almost 2 years, has been just tragic in many instances, from Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, Rashard Brooks. I mean, we can just keep going, Ma'Khia Bryant. We could go down and down the line. Of course, Ahmaud Arbery's killers have recently been, charged, convicted of murder. We've seen a lot of things. But, none of it really for us is justice. Justice would be them being alive.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, but, and Mayor Myrick, it's interesting. So he's been on the platform. I don't know, you probably heard the episode, but in terms of him, I asked him a question about
I remember.
police reform. Should we defund the police? Does Ithaca need to defund the police?
Hmm. To defund, well, different definitions of it. I mean,
Yes, and not if I could rephrase the question, I would ask them why shouldn't we defund the police? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But he gave an interesting answer that talked about reimagining public
Public safety.
safety, and
Yeah.
that's a whole move that y'all are doing now in terms of the work that you do for his office. Talk about what's changed in the past year in terms of policing in Ithaca, the work you've been doing.
Yeah. So the reimagining public safety process that you mentioned, just to give people context, like following the killings of George Floyd, former Governor Cuomo passed Executive Order 203, which basically required, in order for municipalities to receive funding for their police departments, they had to sort of abide by the executive order and to establish new models of policing. It's not necessarily defunding, but alternative models of policing where they're relying more so on community resources and unarmed response. So what the city of Ithaca is doing in partnership with the county is sort of a double response where we're still evaluating which response we're going to take based on models from places like Oregon and places like California, where we're either going to go with a community unarmed response, or an armed response, or just a mixture of both, to sort of see which is better for the county. And I'm kind of leaning more so towards either the community version, which is unarmed, or just sort of a hybrid model. So we could sort of reduce that police footprint and to rely more so on like de-escalation and just receiving mental health assistance. And that's basically where we're at right now. And in particular, I serve on the budgeting committee. So it's like we're just seeing how things are playing out so that we could sort of propose the necessary funds, the budget proposals for the eventual implementation of this policy.
Yeah. Understanding the budget is so important.
Yeah.
Last summer, similar city, I was able to to work in Partnership for the Public Good in Buffalo, and they
Mhm.
have a lot of the same issues. It's upstate New York, but man, they would have 2 and 3 hour meetings just talking about the budget
Yeah.
for the next year. And this is
Yeah.
why is it important to sit to do, because a lot of times we want to voice our opinion, state an idea, but the money behind it is like that controls everything, and that's like,
Exactly.
yeah. So
You
talk
know,
about.
and I love that question. A wise man once told me that those closest to the problems have the most solutions, but are farthest from positions of power and resources. I know a lot of activists out here that are dedicating the entirety of their lives to advocating. Not everyone is Sean King, but we know there are a lot of Sean Kings out there. We're dedicating the entirety of their lives to doing the good work, but they're making themselves go crazy because no one is, helping them. So I knew right then and there, where's the money going? That was the first question I had. Why all of a sudden is the Ithaca, the city of New York, adopting this when they could have been done this? Why all of a
Yeah.
sudden are we by 2030, the city hopes to decarbonize itself fully when we could have been doing this, when scientists have, hinted that we're undergoing an existential crisis of global warming, and it's like money controls everything. So why not see where the money is being moved? The police department in the city of Ithaca receives a lot of funding, more funding than social programs oftentimes. So it's like I'm really trying to have a say so, and that's why I said I wouldn't necessarily serve on common council, but you kind of have to if you'd like to serve with the city administration. But just seeing where the money moves, I can have a say so in like allocating funds to various things. Like you're the most powerful person.
It's just a fact. It's just a part of the facts. um Listen, so talk now about, because you talked about the city common council work that you've done. Talk a little bit about like campus, maybe specifically, the Criminal Justice Coalition, I think it's
Yeah,
called.
yeah.
And really, you work with Professor Joseph Margulies pretty closely, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Now, from what I hear, word on the street is this coalition is going to ultimately turn into like some type of more than just a CPED minor, which is crime, business, education, justice, but it's going to turn into some type of major or department at least for
Mm.
criminal justice. Talk about that.
Yeah, so like I'm not too like in tune, but it's like as well as Joseph Margulies, as well as Professor Mishner, and
Mission.
this is the thing that they're doing. It's like I feel that we have enough resources to, like you said, basically make that into a major rather than just because like that's what kind of brought me to Cornell. Like literally that minor is sort of what differentiated Cornell from other areas. So I'm not too in tune, but like yeah, basically essentially what you just said is like I'm looking forward to that if that actually happens.
Absolutely. I know that they do a lot of great work on campus. Cornell does a laudable job in terms of connecting with prison populations throughout the state of New York. I mean, they should. There's a whole lot of prisons in New York, but
Yeah.
they do a lot of great work. Talk a little bit about now this work that you did over the summer in terms of the lobbying work. You worked on some post conviction reform
Yeah. So yeah.
legislation.
So that's the stuff where like the reentry project that's under Margulies as well,
Okay,
and
cool.
that's through the coalition. That's one of the opportunities, the projects that they have where we're basically researching the reentry landscape for people who are released into society, sort of how they sort of cope with having a felony record and like the process of recidivism and the frequency of recidivism. So essentially what we did is like we were researching this for the past couple of years, and then we used those findings to draft policy proposals where a couple of years ago, the county sort of agreed to allow houses to be built. So the Sunflower House is not too far away from here. It's in the Commons for the purpose of subsidizing apartments so that people can not only have homes, but transportation venues so that they can go to their hearings, so that they can go to their mental health resources, computer and technology training, and just drug treatment, all sorts of, social programs coupled with housing. When we did this research and we saw one common theme, housing was like the greatest problem and like one of the greatest contributors of recidivism, because if a person, coupled with housing, if they don't have transportation to get to a court hearing or some type of court, like some type of appointment, that's a technical violation. And similar to my family members, if you violate those terms, those parole terms, you can go right back to jail. So that's really what we're doing. We just asked the county for, can they provide the funding for the first 3 years as we pilot this program, and they agreed for the first year. We just have to keep, lobbying and advocating.
Yeah, a lot of what you're talking about in terms of those issues, and first of all, that is an amazing solution. Subsidizing housing for people who have been released, ex incarcerated folks. I think that's absolutely awesome. One of the things that comes to my mind, and since this is Black Voice on the Hill, is Black culture. So I guess one connection I can make is for people out there is I don't know if y'all have ever seen the movie First Sunday. But it's this movie with Ice Cube as like the
Yeah.
main character, right? And his name's Darrell in the movie. And his friend, he and his friend get, busted, I guess, for like it was stealing some TVs out of his place, right? Because he's trying to fund, I don't remember what it was. He was trying to, he didn't even do it, but he was blamed for it. And so he got wrapped up in it. So after this, he ends up getting a record, and man, he's going to every job, and they're like, yeah, qualified maybe, but as soon as they see he had to check that box that says I was, incarcerated for a felony or misdemeanor or whatever, and has to check it, he's not able to get a job anymore, and it prevents him in the movie from like providing for his son, providing a place to stay. I mean, so many things. It's a cultural example, but it goes to show that civic death is real, in terms of just after you're being released, no job, not having a job, not having access to a job means you can't eat, means you can't buy a home, means you can't provide or even adequately re-enter society. And it's, I think it's really important the type of legislation you're working on. So I commend you for that, man.
I fully agree, man. It's just crazy how the system truly operates.
Absolutely, absolutely. Listen, I want to talk a little bit about, just where do you see this going in terms of after you like graduate, man? Because you could go so many different ways.
Yeah, that's valid. I came here with the intention of just being a criminal lawyer. And that's why I got so heavily involved in legal work. But then I realized, through the internship that I had, that the problems were so entrenched in the system that it's just more than what happens in a courtroom. That I, wanted to take more so a political or maybe a legislative approach to like criminal justice work. And I'm also interested in other venues. Like, I remember you asked me one time about I'd be interested in running, and I was like, nah, I don't think I can do that. But it's actually been something I'm considering, just because like I'm interested in housing, I'm interested in real estate, I'm interested in like just so many different things, and just CRP, city and regional planning. And but I think law school may be the first step. Law school is most likely the first step. Do some public defense work, or maybe, intern for someone, work for someone. I'm not sure what I want to do in particular, but I know I can see practicing law, then eventually running for something.
Absolutely. Listen, housing, regional city planning, real estate, man, that's all involved in a policymaker's job. Local, state, regional, all a part of economic development. I already knew that's what you think.
It's crazy.
You gonna realize, because a lot of times in terms of being an attorney, whether you're a prosecutor or not, there is only so much systemic work that you can do as an individual actor sometimes in that system. That's why Brian Stevenson has, his, project that he's, what's the name of it? Godly. That he
Not the
does
Equal Justice Initiative.
Equal Justice Initiative. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah. AJI. Because that is able to do a lot more, grassroots work. But even then, sometimes not being in the political space or not being, heavy in that is able to do as much work. So I knew that's where you were headed, man.
Trying to get like you, man.
No, not at all. Listen, so we're coming up on Christmas time or holiday season, excuse me. So both of them, you know. I celebrate Christmas, but I don't know what you celebrate during the holiday season. So tell us one tradition or one favorite thing that your family does during the holiday season.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Shout out to my mom again. I gotta just always give, thanks to her. She really made every Christmas special.
Mhm.
One thing that we do, Christmas Eve, we usually go to church on Christmas Eve. We used to go to church in the morning, but we started going to church at Christmas Eve so we could just open presents. So that's the first thing that we do. We come back, everyone, gets the house ready. And what we really do, we make Christmas cookies. Cookies for Santa. I love doing that. Hot chocolate. And then we watch a movie, a good old movie.
Mhm.
It's always the best. And then, we go to sleep. Everyone's, just excited to wake up and open presents. But I would have to say just making cookies, listening to music, and really just watching a movie at the end of the night.
Absolutely. I want to ask this question. I just thought about it too. How is it, you know, I guess like going back home now, like in terms of just, you're in Ithaca, Cornell doing all this great work, then you go home, like I know your family just must be so proud of you and your
Mhm.
community too. What has been like the feedback of just, you being at Cornell? What is that? What's the implication for your younger
Oh
siblings? Because
yeah.
I know, yeah.
Yeah, they're proud of me. They're most definitely proud of me. Like
Mhm.
it hit a point where like, just growing up the way that I sort of carried myself, it's like my mother expects it from me. So like they're proud, but it's like they know. It's like that's the standard. Like that's just how you have to live. And seeing how what my parents did, it's really like, I'm proud of myself, but it's like this is what has to be done at the end of the day. So it's not like, oh my gosh, Marquan, it's more so like, good job, son. Continue to handle business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Business. That's exactly how Marquand described it. And when we had our first coffee chat, he was like, listen, I'm here to handle business. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very true. Listen, Marquand, um, we're coming to the close of the episode. Is there like anything that you'd like to drop any last gems on us or any last words, things like that, man?
Hmm. Um, yeah, so like something that's been getting me through the day, because I know this has just been a rough semester for each and every one of us. But I think of the great Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He said, this is pertaining to men, but it can also be applied to women. He said, the ultimate measure of a man or woman is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. So that's just something, just understand that the things that we're all going through is only going to make us better, and just to keep your head up and that finish the semester out strong.
Absolutely. Of course, you quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah.
That's your
Right.
brother. Congratulations too on becoming a brother of the, as you say, what the Almighty
The
Alpha Chapter.
almighty Alpha chapter
Okay,
of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated.
Incorporated. Congratulations, man.
Okay.
We're so proud of you. And listen, y'all, it's been Marquan Frederick. Listen, tell us where we can stay connected with you on social media, LinkedIn, things like that.
Yeah. You can stay connected with me at Scholarly MQ. That's SCHOLARLY Scholarly MQ. And then LinkedIn, I think it's MFRE 4265. MFRA 4265. And just thank you again for having me, man.
Absolutely, buddy. Listen, y'all, to see what more new and upcoming episodes of Black Voices on the Hill and for other Cornell and Ithaca news, be sure to follow us at Black Voices on the Hill on Instagram. Follow WVBR FM News on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Visit us at our website at wvbr.com/Black Voices. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Overcast, and tune in right here on WVBR 93.5 every Friday at 2 p.m. and the episode released on podcast platforms on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Listen, one last thing I thought about Marquand. Tell us one thing you this next year, as we go into this new year, because basically we're going into new year. Uh, I want to ask you, what's one thing that you want to say you have done at the end of 2022, and what's another thing that maybe that you want to do better? Does that make sense? I guess maybe.
Yeah. Good question. So one thing that I really want to say that I've done before the end of 2022, I want to say that I've taken the LSAT and I scored at least a 172. I'm taking the LSAT this summer, actually. Just get it out the way. And then something that I can do better. That's a good question. I
know you're gonna struggle.
Nah, man, I have a lot to work on. I would probably say to expand outside of my circle. In terms, like, I'm very social when it comes to professional connections, but I want to make, more genuine friendships with people I may have made at first. So just outside of the community, and really just, continuing to strengthen those relationships, and to just continue to challenge the things that I particularly don't like about myself, and to just become a better person for myself.
Man, I so admire that. Listen, that's such a Marquan response. He gonna be critical of himself. No, listen, but you're on the right path, man. Listen, y'all, it's Marquan Frederick again. We'll see y'all next week. Be sure to shout out to my executive research, Mike Sykes, and Grace Fairchild. Peace out, everybody.